Okay, hello. Act 2, Scene 1. However I should call this. Okay, I started this video on my computer and decided to come over to my phone because there's some things, and I know there's always going to be that person that shows up and says you're wrong, or let's talk about your makeup, or let's talk about your exercise routine, or let's talk about something and distract you and totally get you off topic, but I'm not going for that right now. Not everyone may think this is important. However, I am seeing some really amazing statements and questions on all social media platforms where we are comparing ourselves to other people. And even though we understand and we know that comparing ourselves to other people is not a great idea and it doesn't really help us, um, there is something bigger and something greater and an even bigger underlining cause to why that is not helpful for you. So hello and welcome to the news that didn't make the news. My name is Tina and I want to talk about gratitude and want to talk about where we are right now. So let me move some things out of the way because I had this set up for my computer and now I've got my phone instead. So let me get organized and rearrange a few things over here. Okay. I don't know what's going on with the rearrangement of algorithms on social media, specifically YouTube, when you go from having a certain kind of audience and a certain number of audience and everything drops out. Now, maybe that's intentional and maybe that's accidental and maybe that's just something rising to the surface to help us understand things. Okay. I would love a sub. Yes. Hello and welcome to the news that didn't make the news. My name is Tina. I will probably not pay attention to your comments and I apologize. I know there are thousands of people that are live on YouTube right now that want to talk to you and ask you what city you're from or what gender you're from and everything else. I see it every single day, but that's not why I'm here. And I can get incredibly distracted looking at everyone's comments, especially when a big group of people are here to distract. And it's not just me, it's on every live video that I see. So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on right now. Yeah, I know. And says the person that no one cares. Why are you here? Just take a hike. One finger to scroll. That's all it is. For a lot of people, this is really important. And the reason I know it's important is because I'm seeing so many people talk about this, right? So people will say, look at that other person. They're in this wonderful relationship, with another person, and they're not perfect. They're not that good looking. They're not that in shape. They're not that whatever, right? It's hard because we as humans are observers and we're never going to take that observer's self away from us. But what happens is we start making all of these comparisons, okay? And why this truly doesn't work for us, summed up as short as it can possibly be, okay? So where we are right now, or where a large group of us should be, is getting our physical body and our physical life in sync with our consciousness. The consciousness is undoubtedly shifting, changing. Millions of people are waking up. And so this time period is about getting your physical body and your physical life in sync with your consciousness. So in other words, you know that your gifts are expanding, your consciousness is expanding, and you feel like you're being called to do something. Maybe it's to quit your boring, I hate this, take this job and shove it, 9 to 5 job, and do something more creative. Maybe you feel like you're stuck in a family situation or a relationship situation, and you know there's something better, you know there's something, another person that could understand you greater, that you could be in a more simpatico relationship, right? So getting your physical body and your physical life in alignment with what your consciousness is showing you. Your consciousness is a teacher, right? That's what, so many hundreds of great teachers all over this planet, Buddha and Jesus and hundreds of other people were trying to get across to you, is that when your mind expands, it becomes broader. When you open that doorway or that gateway to your mind and to your heart, it was about expressing yourself and doing those things, doing those ideas, using that expanded consciousness to take a step or many steps in your life to change. And what I love to say is course correction. This whole time is about getting your physical body and your physical life in simpatico or in sync with what your consciousness knows, what your higher self knows, what you know in your gut, what you feel in your heart, what you know in your intuition is the right move for you, the right course for you, whatever you feel and know that open doorway should be, right? Your consciousness is bringing expanded ideas, expanded thoughts, and expanded feelings. They always come through in a multi-dimensional way or an out-of-the-box way, or a way which is in our consciousness first, right? So we don't have a thought like, oh, I want to train for a marathon, and then look down and see ourselves built like someone who does triathlons. That's not how it works. It always comes through in our consciousness first. We have an idea or a thought or a feeling that's coming through our consciousness that says, let's run marathons, let's train for a marathon. So the consciousness or the conscious expansion is coming in and giving you thoughts or ideas or feelings about the ways to take what you're getting through your intuition, which is your expanded consciousness, your psychic power, all these other things, and how to use that to maneuver or guide yourself or correct the course that you're on. Not that you're on a bad course. Some people are on a collision course. You like the shocker. I don't know what that means. You don't. I don't have a clue what that means. And it's kind of the same people showing up here that show up to be mean on a regular basis and ask questions about Santa Claus and transgender and everything else. I'm not here for that. So I'm going back to not looking down. I really don't have any idea, unless you are literally paid to disrupt videos or you're high out of your mind, why you would watch something that you're not interested in and try to make the person on the other end of that feel nervous or self-conscious or whatever. So I'm going back to not looking at the comments. This is incredibly important, and that's why people show up to distract it, okay? So where I'm going with this is I see in the last year very specifically people saying, I'm single, this other person is in a happy relationship, and I know them. They haven't done the work on themselves. They haven't done the shadow work. They don't take care of themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So how could they be in a happy relationship? We've all worked with someone that was super skinny or super in shape, that walked around eating bags of chips and candy bars all the time. I have worked with very very many of these people in my lifetime, right? And every one of these people, when you talk to them, you say, wow, because I've worked with so many thin people or in shape people that ate like total crap. And when everyone would harass them about it or give them shit about it or say, oh, I don't understand how you can be so in shape or whatever when you eat like crap all the time and you never exercise. And literally every person that I ever worked with that was like that said, I can eat anything I want and I just don't gain weight, right? So, what is the message that you're telling yourself? Okay, so that's partially where we're going with this. Again, as a human being, there's no way we can take ourselves out of observing that other people have this or have that or don't have things that we have. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is being thankful versus being pessimistic or being negative. I see a lot of people on social media and in real life who are like, I don't want to celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a sacrilege. It's all these things. It's all these things. And yes, while there's absolute truth behind that, right? This holiday didn't come from anything glorious or anything righteous or anything expanded at all. And if we know that, are we going to get stuck in that negative, pessimistic attitude day after day after day? Or are we going to say, wow, you know what? I'm abundant. I have money for food. I have an awesome family. I have an invitation to spend the day somewhere. So are you going to be grateful? Or are you just going to sit around and be pessimistic? Now, my dad and a couple of his friends had a little mock mini Thanksgiving last week before Thanksgiving. And one of the guests at the Thanksgiving started to, as we were saying our Thanksgiving prayer, started to talk about the lack of indigenous respect in this holiday and all this other stuff. And I cut her off and I said, but we're here right now and we have food and we have great company. And like I said, I know it's not a holy holiday. It's not a holiday filled with consciousness. We don't have any expanded thoughts on, maybe perhaps what we did wrong in the past. But if we're going to live in the past forever, we're just going to keep creating it. Now, Christmas is coming up. I'm seeing the same thing, even though I spent 3 minutes total on social media today. Yes, the smoke detector is beeping, and that's all the way down the hallway. So you have some really good ears, and I'm surprised to see that you are still here. But anyway, so Christmas is coming up. It's a matter of weeks away, and I'm already seeing the same thing. It's a made-up holiday. Santa derives from the word of Satan and all this other stuff. And even though we know the truth behind the manufactured financial holiday that Christmas has become, again, are we thankful to have a warm house, to share that with guests, to be able to cook amazing food, and more specifically, have a day where nobody in your family has to go to work, or most people have jobs, unless you're, maybe a doctor or police officers or, a dispatcher or something like that. Most of us have the day off to spend it with family or friends, however we choose, having a feast, gorging out on food and not doing anything. Now, like I said, we are aware that Thanksgiving and Christmas are what they are and have this creation story behind them that maybe doesn't have anything to do with it. The thing is, once you understand what Christmas is or what Thanksgiving is, you can make it anything you want to make it. So do you want to be negative and pessimistic? And now And I certainly understand that. And I certainly get that point of view, about the way the holiday season has become. But if you don't want to be part of that, don't give gifts or don't shop at big box stores, shop at local businesses or make your own things. Okay, but I do think it's important for us to share food and share joy and share time together. And basically, these holidays are the only time when most places are shut and we can join with our family and friends, no matter what our religious beliefs are, right? So, the main thing that's important for us to ask ourselves is, are we at a frequency level with our body that we are with our consciousness? If you've watched this channel before, things always happen, thoughts or ideas or feelings that are outside of you initially. Other words, hanging out in another dimension or basically just another frequency. You've got something hanging out in another frequency, which first comes into your consciousness before it shows up into your physical reality. And something may show up in your consciousness a week before it shows up in physical reality. It could be months, it could be a year, right? So everybody's totally and completely different. But the really important thing right now is getting your physical body and your physical life in sync with your consciousness. And again, you don't have this thought, this feeling or idea, I'm going to run a marathon, and instantly look down and you have the body of a marathon runner, right? These things take time, and these things also take patience. But just like we may have that coworker that we work with that's always eating bags of chips and candy bars that weighs 100 pounds, every person that I've ever worked with like that, when they are made fun of and, basically bullied for it, they all say the same thing. I can eat whatever I want and not gain any weight. Okay. So comparing ourselves to other people. And again, there's no way as a human being that we're not going to observe other people's behavior, other people's relationships, and other people's situations. But I see so many people saying, okay, there's this person who is, let's say selling religious crosses or doing something religious, who is not in their authenticity, right? That's not who they really are. They just want to make money off of, selling crosses, right? Coming across religious in order to sell crosses, or coming across as spiritual new age in order to sell crystals, whatever. Okay. So that person is not in their authenticity, but yet they're making really great money. And again, there's no way you can remove yourself from observing, hey, I know that person. They're not even really religious, but they have this whole channel on, selling crosses or Bibles or whatever, because they're doing it for money. And even though we can't remove ourselves from the observation, we have to somehow figure out a way to remove ourselves from the judgment, because so many of you are saying, well, here's this person doing A, B, or C. That person, I know that person, they're not in their authenticity, yet yet that person is making good money. So again, the difference between observing, here's a person not in their authenticity making great money, versus a judgment. Okay. There's a person selling something, doing this job, making great money, even though they're not in their authenticity. So why is that not happening to me? I'm totally in my authenticity. However, I'm not making the money. Looking at people who live on junk food and never exercise their body and saying, how is that possible? Right? Again, comparing yourselves, like, I exercise, I eat well, or looking at one person and saying, wow, that person's sick or has a terminal illness and has always taken care of themselves. And then looking at someone else and saying, that person lives on, junk food, video games, and is a total couch potato who never exercises. Again, there's no way for you to remove yourself from that point of observation. It's just the judgment that you need to work on ditching, okay? The person's in a great relationship, right? But they haven't done their personal work. That person's in a thriving physical relationship, but they haven't done their work and they haven't done their shadow work. And we have to stop comparing ourselves to other people, because if you don't understand the consciousness that they're coming from, then you can't understand anything else. So, how is that person not exercising, eating anything they want, staying in shape, staying healthy? How are there so many people while you're single? There are so many people that are in beautiful relationships, again, your judgment, that are doing just fine without doing their work and without doing their shadow work. And trust me, I don't care what state of consciousness you're in. If you get into any kind of relationship whatsoever, and you haven't done your, work on yourself or your shadow work or whatever you want to call it. And your shadow work is the positive things that you've been hiding along with the negative things. It's not just negative things, okay? So we have to stop. And I've been seeing this for as long as I've been on social media. The biggest comparison. How's that person stay healthy and skinny without doing anything? How's that person in what I deem as a healthy relationship, right? Or a healthy marriage when they haven't done any of their shadow work? And again, trust me when I say this, no matter what kind of relationship you're in, if you haven't done any work prior, then you'll end up doing all the work with that other person. It's much easier to do your shadow work, both the positive and negative side, with yourself than it is to have another person in that as well, okay? But again, we're human and we can't cut off our observation of the situations around us, but we have to remove the judgment and we have to start being happy for people. And this is what it boils down to. I'll say it again. The whole point of right now, the whole point of last year and an into next year for many of you is getting your physical self caught up with your consciousness, getting your physical body and getting your physical life, meaning what relationships you're in, what kind of job you're doing, what kind of exercise you're doing, how you're taking care of yourself, all these other things. We have to get it to match up with the consciousness, right? Because while we're looking at people saying, wow, they're thin and they have a very unhealthy lifestyle and very shitty choices of food, look how many people are in relationships who haven't done their work. Or look how many people are making good money or making a way in physical reality to pay for things that they want by doing something that's out of alignment with them. But we don't know where that person's consciousness is unless we really know them. And here's the biggest thing right here that's so important for you to know. The reason that person can live on junk food and not exercise and stay healthy is because mind over matter, okay? So if you walk around saying, I can never lose weight, I'm always stuck with this extra 10 pounds, whatever, your tongue is literally the sword or a wand. If you think about making magic, and I'm not talking about dark spells, you know what I mean? Manifesting things, making magic, waving the wand, like Glinda the Good Witch, right? The tongue is a wand. So you may be observing other people's jobs and relationships and all this other stuff, saying, how is it possible that they're like that, right? Because the way you live your life, what you do, the state of your health, the state of your wealth, and the state of your relationships are all connected to how you exercise and how you eat and all of those other things. But the way you're living has a lot to do, the way you're living has a lot to do with the state of your health, your wealth, and your relationship. But it's not the biggest part of what determines your life. What really determines your life is your thoughts. And that's why I'm telling you it's so important for you not to look at someone in a relationship and say, I know that person, I'm friends with them. They've done no work on themselves and no shadow work, but yet they're in a healthy relationship. Look at that person who makes money, but that's not even a job that it's aligned with them. It's not even something that they care about, but they're able to do it. So why can't I do A, B, or C when I'm surrounded by people who are out of alignment with things, but still making that happen? And what does that tell you? Well, if you have a person that exercises and always eats in a healthy manner, whatever you feel like that is for your body, no judgment, then you have another person that doesn't exercise and just eats, junk food off the store shelf. And the junk food person is healthy and the other person is not. That tells you that more than anything, the state of your health, the state of your wealth, and the state of your relationships comes from how you think about it. That's why I'm saying you'll never ever take the observation mode out of the human and stop noticing people's, relationships or jobs or how they make money or whatever. But you have to leave away the judgment. Okay. So it's important because when you're saying, I really love my job, I feel like this mission is super duper important, but I'm not making money. How is that other person making money? You don't know what that person's consciousness is, okay? Unless it's, your friend, maybe your direct family member or your lover, right? So I'll ask you again, is your body on the same frequency as your consciousness? Conscious awareness comes first, and then we have to make the changes in a very physical way, or we have to course correct, okay? So that's the basic bottom line, is getting your physical body and your physical life in sync with what your consciousness is telling you. Because if you have two people in a very healthy physical relationship, let's say marriage, for example, and neither one of them are doing any work on themselves, whether it's their diet or anything, let's just say they're ignoring like their inner needs and their inner desires, but they're having a happy, healthy relationship with someone else. Well, a happy, healthy relationship with someone else, to those two people, they're on the same frequency, right? The only time that becomes a problem is if you have two people in a physical relationship and one of them is at this level where they're like, here's the things that matter: food, water, shelter, money, and having a good time. If you have two of those people with the same goal in mind, it works perfect, right? So in that case, their physical body and their physical life is already in sync with what they want and who they are. The problem in the relationship only comes when you have one person that says, the important things to me are food, water, shelter, money, and entertainment and fun. And you have another person that says, well, my consciousness is giving me signs and synchronicities and symbols and telling me it's time to jump in, it's time to act on a planetary scale. And I feel like I can best do it, through whatever my gift is this way, right? Because then so if you have the person saying, it's time to jump in and work for unity, work for sustainable living, work for a better way to treat animals, work for a better way to have clean food, whatever our expanded consciousness is giving all of us this same information, perhaps not in the same order, right? But the important thing is that if you have two people in a physical relationship that are both in the same mood, in the mood, if you have two people in the same mood, in the same mode of consciousness, food, shelter, water, money, and fun, that works great no matter where their consciousness is in regards to each other. The only problem that arises in those kind of things is if one person feels called to do something higher. And what I mean by one person feels called to do something higher is one person's really takes a look at not just food, water, shelter, money, and fun, but really takes a look at what is the highest version of me? How do I thrive best in relationships? How do I thrive best in relationships with people? What's my best relationship to food? What's the exercise that works best for me? But when you start acting upon that expanded consciousness, like, oh, I want to jump in and create things to clean the water or clean the air or end the pollution or whatever, and the other person is looking at you and going, but it's Saturday night. We've always just gone to the bar and done karaoke and played pool. And they may stop liking or being attracted to who you are. And that's why it's so important, again, to allow ourselves to observe and know as humans we're always going to observe, but not to judge that. Because, again, the only problem for us becomes when we're in things that are out of alignment. And it's none of my business whether someone just wants to focus on food, shelter, money, and having fun. That's totally fine if that is what makes that person tick and that's what makes that person happy. But more than the way you eat, more than the way you exercise, more than the way you do your personal work or shadow work or your weightlifting or whatever, more than anything that you do physically about losing weight or looking younger or eating healthy or wanting to stay healthy and not be part of the medical system, all those things, and the exercise and diet and all those things combined are super, super important, but they don't supersede your thoughts. They will never supersede the person that says, I can eat anything I want and not gain weight. And they've said that for forever. And your body listens to you. Their body has listened to them. Their body knows that they'll say the same thing forever. I've always eaten junk food and not exercised. I've always been healthy. I've always been thin. They use their tongue as that wand to create the reality. So, of course, how you treat yourself, what food you eat, whether you exercise, all of that stuff is very important because it sends a message to ourselves and other people about how we care for ourselves. But more than any of that crap is our thoughts. And it's what we tell ourselves. And so the reason why I'm giving you all those examples on people in social media saying this person is selling this or doing this or in this relationship that's not authentic and it's working, or they're making money, or they're losing weight. And we look at that and say, why can't I do that? Or why can't I make it happen? And that's because that person doesn't have a problem with it. Their consciousness allows it. That person believes I can eat whatever I want and be healthy and skinny, or I can sell whatever I want just to make money. I don't have to believe in this religion to sell crosses or sell Bibles. If it works for them and there's no inner contrast or inner conflict for them, then it works for them. And when it works for you, that's when you create magic in your reality. And so even though you will never stop observing other people and how they create things, we have to stop comparing those things to someone else, right? And I learned this a while ago, but I'm seeing so many people struggle with this. And so it's hard because once we learn something or once we get into a certain kind of self-talk, we tend to stay there, right? So when it comes to relationships, what I started noticing in my neighborhood is, even though I'm single and walk around the neighborhood by myself, almost every person I saw was a happy couple with a dog holding hands. And I'm like, instead of saying what I'm seeing so much in social media, saying, why is that person holding hands and looking so happy and walking with this smiling dog and I'm alone forever and I've done my work? Because you have to stop fucking doing that. You have to change your mind and go in the opposite direction and say, wow, look at that happy couple with the smiling dog. Everybody's happy. There are happy couples everywhere around me, right? Because is your body on the same frequency as your consciousness? Your consciousness expands, and then you have to change whatever physically, whether it's your diet, your habits, your exercise. Don't know why my light's going out on my phone here and it's getting dark. We'll never stop observing, but we have to really, really, really stop comparing ourselves to other people. And we have to, most importantly, remove the judgment. Okay. So you see somebody selling something, right, on TikTok, and you don't, let's say you don't like the person, you don't like what they're saying, you don't like what they're selling. Instead of saying to yourself, oh, I can't believe they're selling that. I don't like that person's personality. I don't like what they're selling. How dare they? My attitude is, and this is the best attitude to have, and I'm not saying this because I'm faking it. This is honestly how I am. I'll see the stupidest thing for sale on TikTok and I'll be like, wow, that's really ambitious and they're really doing a great job. There's 400 people, watching this video and they're selling a lot of stuff. That is so awesome for them, right? Here's the happy couple with the smiling dog. Wow, I'm surrounded by happy couples. That's so awesome. Because the thing is, you don't know where someone else's consciousness is. And so it makes it really difficult when you jump in and say, well, that person's in a relationship or that person's making money or what. Yes. I know for some reason you're completely enthralled and entertained and you like to just come here and make nasty comments, which I'm not reading, but I get the vibe off of your comments, so I don't need to read them. That's fine. Your thoughts are what creates your reality more than what you eat, more than the way you move your body, more than anything. It's really perplexing to me, Mr. O'Brien, that this is so confusing to you and so boring. I'm not using any high IQ words or anything that would be confusing to you. So it's so weird to me that you're actually still here. And so ironic because I feel like this happens every time I make a video on my phone. There's someone that shows up that does the very thing that I'm talking about. You're not interested in this. It's as boring as fuck to you, but you won't turn it off and you won't scroll away. And you're what this whole video is about, right? Your consciousness is not expanded. You're not having a good time, but you just can't look away, right? Like it's an accident or a car fire or something. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the reason I do it and the reason I don't look at your comments most of the time anyway, I've just seen that you've made like 20 comments. I keep saying the same person's name over and over and over again. I happen to read your last comments. Get your physical body in alignment with your consciousness, right? So O'Brien, if you have no elevated state of consciousness and you're so bored yet would stay here, you want to think about that, because Pluto moved into Aquarius on November 19th. And the incredible thing about that, and I've been talking about what is coming in that energy on and off for 9 months, but more than anything, Pluto is the revealer of truth, and it brings hidden or repressed issues to the surface. When you're bored and still watching something, there's something in you that has repressed or suppressed some sort of issue that's rising to the surface. The whole point of this video is about comparison, about judgment. Pluto moving into Aquarius, I've told you, Pluto is the wrecking ball for all things that are not an Aquarian lifestyle, both for you and for the collective consciousness and for the planet of the whole as a whole. But Pluto will reveal the truth, no matter who's looking at it or no matter who cares. Pluto will bring hidden or repressed issues to the surface. That's your hidden issue with yourself, your hidden issue within your family, your hidden issues within your relationships, or even your hidden and especially your hidden issues within your subconscious are rising up to the surface into your consciousness so that you can make better choices, make better decisions, and make a correction for you where your physical body and your physical life is in alignment now with your consciousness, right? And we have to stop judging and do more observation instead of judging. Because it's easy for me to say, well, look at that person who is making all this money selling this thing they don't even believe in. But if they don't have a state of consciousness that's telling them that they shouldn't sell something they don't believe in, they're not doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything negative, and they're not doing anything to their own detriment, because that person literally may like to just get on TikTok, make videos, and sell stuff. Maybe just being on TikTok, making videos and selling stuff brings that person great joy, right? And so then, and I see it more with people with elevated states of consciousness looking at other people and saying, wow, how can this person do this? Because their consciousness right now is, I like making TikTok videos and I like selling stuff. It's fun and I make great money. And that's where their consciousness is. Their consciousness is not at the point where they're saying, this is going to put a lot of garbage in the landfill, or this isn't really good for the environment. They're not at that. So the people that are at the stage of a higher or bigger understanding or a broader understanding or a higher perspective are looking at other people and saying, why are they doing that? But the reason to stop judging is you don't know that person who's selling, let's say vacuums on TikTok. You don't know what their consciousness level is. I can assume if I see them and they're happy and making a great video and selling a lot of vacuums, that they love to sell stuff, and that's where their state of consciousness is. Now, where the difference comes in is if my consciousness is in a different state from that person, and I go on TikTok and I am selling something that I don't believe in for multiple reasons, but I'm doing it and I'm doing make believe and make pretend so that I can just make great money when it's out of alignment with what I feel is important for myself, my physical life, and the planet. That's a problem. You have to understand that. And that could have been the entire video right there. You cannot judge someone else and say, they're doing this thing, they're making this great money, they're living this great life, they're having this great relationship, because hopefully they are physically living and they have gotten their physical life and their physical body in sync with their consciousness. So if their consciousness says, I make videos, I go on TikTok, I make great money, that's awesome, that works. But those who have an elevated consciousness, instead of looking at everyone else and saying, why am I single? Why don't I have money? Why do I not have perfect health when this, and this is going on? When you elevate in consciousness, that is a gift, but that means you have to become more responsible. And that doesn't mean that you can't make videos and sell things on TikTok. Doesn't mean that you can't have a casual relationship or whatever. But once you know, once you understand, once consciousness and perspective has elevated, you know better than to do things that don't align with your thoughts, your feelings, and your heart space. And that honestly is how other people can be in relationships that haven't done their work. They can sell whatever they want. They can do whatever they want for a living. They may be some Jezebel pretending to be some spiritual guru and selling candles and all these things. and they're really not even a nice person. It doesn't matter, because everyone has to live and maneuver and put their physical body and their physical life in alignment with their consciousness in order to do great things. And if your consciousness is down here and you feel like this, and this are great ideas, and that's where your consciousness is, then for you it is a great idea. But for someone with a different consciousness level, it would not be. So as much as you can, try to stay in observation mode, be grateful, and stop judging or comparing, okay? Because that would be like putting me on the running mark start with someone who's never ran a day in their entire life, and I've been a runner half my life, and saying, okay, this is a fair race, 1, 2, 3, go. It's not a fair race. I've been working out for decades, right? So if I'm putting myself in that situation, or asking that other person to run, that's not fair. And that's the same as comparing your consciousness. And people are constantly talking about toxic religion and toxic relationships and toxic jobs. But if that person's consciousness is at a level where they feel like they are doing the right thing, that's the only thing that matters. That's why they can have that relationship without the consciousness, without doing the work or the shadow work, or they can make great money, even though you look at it and say, well, that is not something that's conscious. That's not a conscious choice. That's not something that's good for the earth. It doesn't matter, because we thrive in a physical way when we're doing something that is in alignment with our consciousness. And again, just like the relationship example, the only time it becomes a problem is when we are doing something and we have an expanded view on what that means to us personally and what that means to the world, to the pollution level, whatever. You have to work from your point of consciousness, no matter what that consciousness is. And so when you see someone that's like, oh, I love making videos and I love, selling vacuums and I'm making great money, instead of judging them or saying, how could you do that? It pollutes the world and blah, 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 blah. Just say, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. Because the whole reason I'm telling you this is, if you're going to sit there and you're going to judge people, what they're creating physically in their life from your point of consciousness, it's never going to work. People should be working and putting their life in sync with their own consciousness. And as long as they're doing that, they're doing the right thing and they're evolving. Just like we shouldn't ask someone to run against me, not saying I'm a marathon runner, because I am not, but just like we don't want to put someone that's never ran next to someone that's ran half their life, we don't want to compare ourselves, our jobs, our money, our relationships, or anybody else that we're living from a perspective. The only thing you should be paying attention to and staying in your own lane is the relationship I'm in where my consciousness is at? Is the family dynamic I have with my family and the conversation, is that at the level where I'm at? Because the only time you want to exit out of something is when the people are not in agreement. As I mentioned, you got two people in a physical relationship that their priorities are food, shelter, money, and fun. That's great. If two people are on the same page, it works perfectly. Getting our physical body and our physical life in sync with our consciousness means the only thing that we need to be judging is ourselves, and where we have an elevated perspective or an elevated consciousness, or a more well-rounded conscious evolution, but we're staying in something that is not a physical match for our consciousness. Your thoughts create your reality. You will create more money. You will create more joy, more abundance, healthier relationships, eating whatever you want, not gaining weight, when you decide that's how you're going to do it, right? When you talk like, oh, look at the happy couple. Oh, I'm so proud of you for selling vacuums on TikTok and making money. Because nothing holds you back like judging someone else and comparing yourself and saying, why am I not doing that when I have a more evolved consciousness? Because your evolved consciousness is not supposed to do anything for your neighbors or anybody else as far as you making that observation and telling someone what to do. The only time you need to jump in and do anything is when you know that you're out of alignment with your physical body and your physical life in connection with your consciousness, where you're in a relationship where one person is like food, shelter, money, fun, and then there's another person that's like, whoa, there's this whole other world past food, money, shelter, and fun, right? So your observation of those other things that you feel that don't work are for your course correction, not for you to tell other people what to do, and not for you to judge people and say, how is she always eating a bag of chips and a candy bar, but never gaining any weight, okay? And don't get so sad and balled up and confused and sit around in a state of festivity about Santa Claus or Satan or whatever, okay? So not only is none of that relevant, and if you know better and you know the story behind it, guess what? You still got some fucking time off. You got some money, you got some good food, you got some family. Enjoy your time and stop bringing to the surface all the negativity about everything. Because not only is Christmas not the birth of any deity, okay? It's also, December is not the start of the new year either. Why do you think Aries is the first zodiac sign? And I don't care whether you don't like tarot or astrology or care about astronomy or anything else. It doesn't matter. The zodiac wheel, ancient text from thousands of years ago, everything starts with Aries. So March 21st is actually the new year. So what does it matter if they're lying to you? And I know we'd like the rest of the world to understand the lie too, but does that mean we don't have a good time and eat awesome food and hang out with great people when everybody's off work just because we've been lied to by a bunch of dumbasses? I mean, think about it. You're taking this negativity of Santa Claus, of, manipulated information, of all this crap that revolves around a shopping holiday, and you're sitting in your festivity and your negativity about it, instead of just doing something fun. It doesn't matter what the intention of it was. Like I said, there was no deity born on Christmas Day, okay? I'm sure there are lots of humans born on Christmas Day. There is nobody to be worshipped, okay, on Christmas Day. And December 31st is not New Year's. January 1st is not the new year, okay? Aries season is. March 21st is the start of the zodiac, okay? It's been that way for the millennia. That's when the real new year starts. And again, it would be great if everyone knew all this information, but just because they don't, I encourage you to be happy, to be joyous, to have good food and have fun and have good company and not sit around and soak in your negative, pessimistic festivity on holidays just because of something that was created by someone else 100 years ago or 1,000 years or whatever. Are you going to allow your life and yourself, your physical body and your physical life to be run by some program? Or are you going to invite your physical body and your physical life to expand and be run on your own consciousness, right? That's your question. That's it, right? And I went from having videos from 800 to 1,500 views per video. And then I made a video titled, Why Social Media is Showing You What It's Showing You. And now every video has gone from 8 to 1,500, 1,000, whatever, down to 70. And I thought about this for 3 weeks because if I had a client in this situation, I would say, think about it. You've been making videos for 3 years. It's not only not gaining traction, but it's losing traction every single week. Why are you still doing this? This has been my thought for the last 3 weeks. And I actually came to the conclusion that there probably isn't a reason to have this channel anymore. I do realize the biggest person I'm doing this for is me. So I can sit here absolutely uninterrupted by anything and bring you whatever I need to bring you. Also, I've realized by rewatching my videos that it's very apparent to me and probably another person that's a friend of mine that this is almost a guidebook for me and that friend and perhaps a couple of you. But more importantly, I had called Shannon the other day and I had started explaining to her, like, listen, long story short, my views went from here all the way down to here. So what's the point? If I was my own client, if I had a client going through this, I would say to them, I wouldn't say, point blank, this is what you should do, because I never talked like that to myself or anyone else. But I would say, if you've been doing something for this long and it's not yielding results, then it's because you're not going in the direction. And that's when I had one of the most incredible realizations that I've had in a really long time. Again, Pluto is the revealer of truth. Pluto brings hidden and repressed issues to the surface, whether those are repressed hidden issues in relationships, repressed hidden issues in your family dynamic, or repressed issues you have internally, or things that you've repressed or shoved down, or things that you're unconscious of rising to the surface, Pluto in Aquarius. So here's my revelation. As I was telling her, I would advise myself, if I was my client, that you might want to look into another direction because it's not doing anything. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's having the reverse effect. But then I realized 2 seconds after telling her that that's not actually true. Something about the energy of this channel, whether it's just me guiding myself and you and 5 other people, there's something about doing this energy exchange or this energy expression with you here on YouTube, though, that even though my watching has gone all the way from up here to down here, everything else in my life is working better when I ignore the fact that there used to be, again, it's just like I said, things rising to the surface, right? But it has made a big difference. I uttered the words, it came out my mouth, that really, what is the point in doing this when it's just declining, and nothing's working? And then I realized that it was about the time that things started to massively decline on this channel. And I continued to do it just for myself or that one other person or that few handful of people, that everything started changing in my life. And though that's not reflected in my watch time or the subscriptions on the channel or anything else, it is a form of expression that's very needed for me and a handful of other people. And the last thing I want to say is, you never know how things are going to work out. Because just as I was complaining to Shannon that this channel is going nowhere, if I was my own client, I would say, do something else, going in a different direction. It's not bearing fruit. It's not doing anything. I realized instantly it was doing something. It just wasn't doing something connected to analytics or to watch time, right? So if you have this brilliant idea that you're going to go out and start running 5 miles every day, let's use that for example, right? Let's say you want to go run 5 miles every day and your goal is you feel that you will be happier if you drop 10 pounds. Let's use this for an excuse. Say you go out and you're in week 2 of running 5 miles every day and you do feel happier and the scale is not changing, but everything else is changing. In fact, someone came up to you on the street and said, you know what, we're making a movie, a marathon movie in your neighborhood, and we'd like you to be one of the background runners. What I'm saying is, when you work on yourself for a particular reason, or whatever you're working on, it may come through somewhere totally different. And even though this doesn't show up as a party time, or a channel that seems to be going anywhere, it's helping me in my life in other areas, just like the person running to lose weight who is then offered a movie to be a background person who's running in a movie. When we do things that we feel are incredibly important for ourselves, maybe even for a specific reason, we then want to judge ourselves and say, well, I'm not losing weight from running, or I'm not making this happen, analytically, or as far as analytics from YouTube from doing this. But we have to realize that it drops through our consciousness first, and we have to get our physical body and our physical life in line with our consciousness. So who knows why your consciousness dropped the idea to run 5 miles every day. Maybe it was so you could end up as an extra in a movie and become a movie star. When you ask for things and practice self-love and really work on yourself and ask for something and work on things, you don't have any idea in what shape or form that's going to show up as. And that's really important for you to know. And the amount of judging and comparing ourselves for relationships and money and jobs and family dynamics and all that, it's all just crap, right? Either turn it off and don't pay attention to it whatsoever, or know that you have your own completely different path. And sometimes it has nothing to do with it. And sometimes your consciousness brings incredible ideas through that have nothing to do with the reason you thought you got the message to begin with. That's the only reason why I'm still here. And I'm still making videos for myself, or a small handful of you. Because even if it's not changing or shifting the analytics on the channel, it is shifting the energy, and it is making everything in my life work out. Everything is always working out for me because I'm doing something and expressing myself in a way that's very important. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, goodbye.